Welcome back, everyone. So glad you could join me because I'm going to read my bonus video. It's called The Forest Pickers, and it's one of my favorite stories in my journals. The Forest Pickers are recurring characters. They don't have their own storyline, they just kind of like show up and just be there. They're, they're you'll see. So I posted what's it called? It's not a precursor, but I posted a photo of one of my illustrations before I started filming this. And if you guys, I'm hoping that I could just post the picture so that I don't have to put that much effort into showing you the illustrations as I read. But maybe for the sake of good flow, as I'm reading the stories, I'll show you the illustrations anyway. Just thinking out loud here, guys. Yeah. So, the Forest Pickers. One time, I went to bed and dreamt that I'm with my family, and I'm just chilling. They've been nice to me lately, and I could relax a little. Which, I don't know, the family in my dreams are not the same family that I have in my waking life. But we are actually at the fire station where my father works, and apparently we're visiting him since he's a firefighter. So there's this bench in front we usually sit at, and we're there just talking. I start to lose interest in the conversation, and I get up. Then I hear a squeaky voice yelling, "Hey! Hey! Hey you!" It's squeaky, but it's not very young sounding like the foot-long fairy I met a few months ago. So like, the foot-long fairy. That's a story for another day. She had a little pink hoodie and everything, but this wasn't her. So I look down and I see a tiny 6-inch fairy woman. She's wearing a leather or a leaf apron. Looked like leather, but I don't know. She had dark brown hair, a huge cartoonish head, lanky arms and legs with knobby joints, a white skirt with layers of sticks and leaves, and a worn white blouse with fringe that hangs off the elbow. No, not like the one I'm wearing right now. Seriously, that's just, that's coincidence. She had silver gray eyes and her short hair was cowlicked like a spider monkey. It stuck up and it spiraled. You can see a picture of her in my sketchbook, which I will gladly show you after I read the story. Wait. I should probably show the pictures as I read them, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. It only took a second. Ta-da! This is exactly what she looked like. Very detailed. I tried. See? Her hair is like a spider monkey. I love spider monkeys. So as you can imagine, she was very detailed and lifelike. She also had big boots and long socks that are so characteristic to modern fairies, especially the ones who try to imitate Victorian illustrations. But not quite. So I got down on one knee, put my head down, so I faced her. I said, "Yes, what do you need?" Like lightning, she jumped on my foot and put her hand on my ankle. Slowly, but unsurprisingly, I shrunk down to her size. Things were very boring, and I guess I was glad to go with her. So I thought about my professor's advice, like you can't associate with fairies, but you can't avoid fairies if you're already shrunk to their size. So, using this logic, I followed her. She ran across the parking lot into an oak forest. Now, I know there is no oak forest next to my father's work in the middle of the city, but you don't question things unless you want it to be boring in dreams. So, we walked into what seemed to be in fairy territory, like this. For more information, please visit my YouTube posts. You see those ladders? Well, there's a pulley next to those, and when we arrived to what she said was her house, I was preparing to climb up, but then she tugged a pulley thing. It's also drawn in the illustration, and suddenly we were already on the porch, and it was like 8 feet up. And when you're this big, that's a little unnerving. So she opened the door to her home and led me inside. It was a very spacious home for a fairy. It was equipped for flying, I guess. Everything was built in. as it was, of course, all wood, and I guess they just carved out whatever they wanted. So she grabbed a broom and bid me to sit down at a table and chairs, which I accepted. So I sat down on a stool thing, and there were fairy bowls and plates and stuff there set up. So she began, she started sweeping. You're in forest picker territory. Forest picker? I repeated. Yes, forest picker. You see, the flyers call us that because of the funny way we pick ourselves through the forest. Uh-huh, I said. Look, there goes one now. She stopped sweeping and ran to an open window and stuck her fist out and shouted, Curse you, Miranda Shelley! You and all those like you! Then she turned back while the other fairy shouted vile things back at her. I caught a glimpse of Miranda Shelley and saw that she had moth wings, brown hair in a bun, and a fuchsia dress with a crinkly brown leaf apron. No matter. I faced my forest picker again. Now, I needed someone to talk to. You don't mind, do you? She asked, putting her broom away and headed to a cupboard. Her voice wasn't squeaky at this point. It was like normal. No, not at all, I said. Good. Would you like something to eat or drink? She stopped when I opened my mouth to say that people are forbidden to eat or drink fairy food. Oh, that's right, she said, closing it. Oh well, she grabbed her broom and started sweeping again. So to start, let me just say that my husband left me yesterday. No, I exclaimed, interested. Yes, she said, after all the time we had been married. Then he decides that there are better things to do than be married to me. Uh-huh, I just kept saying. So I've decided, she continued, I'm going to burn 10 houses down. I looked at her wide-eyed. I noticed that while she was saying this, she dropped her broom, which fell to a clang on the floor, and when the word burn escaped her mouth, licks of fire started to radiate off of her shoulders. Wow, I thought, firebender. So I've already accomplished 3 houses. Don't worry, they were all abandoned, so to do your city a favor. She continued in her voice. That was different. I got up and left the table to pick up the broom. Do you need help cleaning? I asked, holding the broom. Oh, sure, she said, and then said, So I thought my husband and I were having a wonderful marriage before, with everything going fine with our, 20 children, and then he left. From here, things turned into a flashback. 20 children, man. I saw her tending to dinner, and then I heard her running to the door after there were a few brief knocks, and the husband was standing there in the doorway, and then he hugged his wife, and she asked him about his day, and he looked as if he were about to tell her something that she couldn't handle. So she took him to the dinner table, and he said he wasn't hungry, and he walked away. She asked what was wrong, and then I saw him whisper something in her ear, and then back away to see her reaction. She started shouting at him, and then covered her face with her hands and paced around. I still have no idea why I was seeing this, or what he told her that made her so upset, but he tried to calm her down, and she turned away from him. He was taller than her and wore a funny peaked hat. When she again went silent, he took her hands and asked if she wanted to dance that jig she liked. She was trying to decide, so he started dancing funny with his hands on his hips, and his shoes went thumpity-thump-thump, and she started dancing, and that went thumpity-thump-thump with her big brown work boots, and together they made a pleasing sound of a harmonious young couple. Well, I don't know what happened between them. Dancing with their hands on their hips. They tapped to beat to no music except the melody they heard in their lives. I wanted them to keep going, but then the sight ended with me sitting down at that table again. Now do you see? She asked me. I nodded. Mm-hmm, I said. She asked, Would you mind helping me with the baby, please? Some of them are still in eggs. Eggs? I asked, and she beheld an egg. Holding it carefully, she then passed it to me. Now, I was very nervous holding it, but she motioned for me. Nerve-wracking. It's for me to put him in a nest with its own name tag. Something like Henry or something. Yes, she said. The others are in school. Wow, I thought. So these forest pickers hatched from eggs. So then her ex-husband was knocking on the door, so I was confused. So she flew to the door and opened it and started shouting things like, What do you want? And he said, he needed to get his things. And she said for him to hurry up and get the hell off of her house, which he promised and walked in. Then he saw me, he smiled and started laughing, saying how I looked funny. Now I guess I could understand this coming from someone from a race who I thought was kind of freaky and hatched from eggs. Well, his wife snapped at him, saying how I was her guest and he should just get his things and go. And she started pushing him. All right, sheesh, he said, and got his things. When he left, she started ranting about how horrible he was, and when she was done, she thanked the fact that I came to listen to her, and then said that she should probably return me and open the door to walk out. I went out after her and looked down from the porch that was secured in the tree, and I saw other forest pickers. There was one dressed like a mayor of the Oak Forest metropolis trying to talk to her husband who had just left, back into living with her. He didn't seem to be taking any advice and kept rudely trying to get away, but the forest picker mayor wouldn't have it, started chastising him for being a jerk. From up in that tree, I saw a fairy squadron pass by in magnificent uniforms that I designed specifically for fairies and other stories. But these weren't forest pickers, and can you believe I used an entire pen in writing this story? Anyway, they were just marching along. She tugged on the pulley, and then we were on the ground again. We started walking out of the forest, and I saw many more fairies. Fairies flying, fairies walking, fairies riding on small dogs. And when we were out, she changed me back. I was suddenly back at that picnic table with my family, and they were still talking when Papa catches a run and has to go leave. Now, my mother tends to follow them to the scene of the fires they are called to. Now, my father was talking to my mother about how many fires they'd been making, like 2 on the same day, and they didn't know the cause of any of them, but I knew. So we drove to the fire. I don't know how we got so close, but when we did arrive, it was already put out. So a portion of the house is being worked on by the firefighters, and my family's looking on. But separate from them, I separate from them, and I go to a chunk of wood that fell off of the house, and despite being mostly drenched in water, part of it was still burning. That's odd, I thought. I got a stick to poke it. I turned over a burning plank. I saw my friend, the forest picker. Eek! She said and ran away. Some other fairies appeared with them. The mayor and started shouting how she shouldn't start any more fires because she was compromising their relations with people, and everything was dying down when I woke up. I think that was more chaotically written than I intended, but here's the broom that I helped to sweep her house with, which I probably shouldn't have drawn the leaves being that size because we were 6 inches, so if those are really small leaves if that were the case. And this is her son. Probably already hatched by now. I do run into her again in the other stories, and she's fine. She's the same. And because it's October, I wanted y'all to notice my outfit. Today I am the pumpkin princess, and I'm very proud of it. So I hope you all enjoyed listening to my bonus story, and I hope you consider liking and subscribing so that you can watch my next video, which I hope to post a couple of days from now. It's going to be about the hero's friends and a gathering that they have. So I will see you then. Goodbye.